The new movie Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin just dropped in theaters. Was it good? I'll let you know. Hi everyone, my name is Bob and welcome to Was It Good, where I give you my movie and TV show reviews. And today we're going to be talking about the film Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin. This is a historical drama / thriller about the life of German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Now, as far as this review goes, this is going to be spoiler free, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you don't need to worry about any spoilers. Now, if you have seen it, I'd like to know what you thought. Why don't you go ahead and share your comments in the comment section below? Let me know. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Is this a movie you were looking forward to? Did you know anything about Dietrich Bonhoeffer before this movie? I'd really like to know what you thought. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get to it. When a pacifist is called to a political act that could change the course of history, a man of honor responds. This is the story of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a man who preached love while plotting the assassination of an evil tyrant. I got to admit that I wasn't too familiar with the life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer before I saw this movie, but I did see that it was made by Angel Studios, who I think's done a pretty good job with faith-based material, especially the hit last year, Sound of Freedom. So when I saw that, I was interested to see what this one would be like. And the question is, like I said earlier, was it good? Let me start out by saying I think this is a well-made, well-directed film. I like the costumes, the set designs. It actually feels like it's set in the time period that it's taking place in. I've always been a big fan of World War II period pieces, and I think this actually feels like it belongs in that time period. I think the film does a good job of capturing this sense of dread as the Nazis are infiltrating the church and pushing out traditional Christian values and implementing their own to fit their agenda. I also thought the way they handled events that happened to the Jewish population and capturing Dietrich Bonhoeffer's reactions to those events and the things that he did in order to battle against that, I thought were very well handled. I also like the way that the film is structured in that it starts towards the latter part of his life and actually looks back and leads up to the current point. And so I think it's structured very well. As I said, I think that it is well made and well directed. Next, I think the film does a good job of balancing messaging with storytelling. I've often said on this channel that when it comes to faith-based movies, you get a film, or very often you get a film that's so focused on messaging that it somehow forgets to tell an engaging story. And that's not the case here. I think Angel Studios has done a pretty good job. And I think over the last 10 to 15 years, faith-based studios have gotten a lot better at this. But this film is very good at balancing the two because it doesn't compromise its messaging at all. It still has its messaging of speaking up in the face of evil and pushing back against anti-Semitism, but it doesn't do that at the expense of good storytelling. I still found the story to be very engaging, so I do want to give the film some credit for having a good balance between the two. Finally, I think the acting performances in this movie are pretty good for the most part, especially when it comes to the lead actor, Jonas Dossler. And forgive me if I pronounce his name incorrectly, but he plays Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and I think he did a really good job in this role. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pacifist, and he ends up facing a moral dilemma because as he's pushing it back against the Nazis in through his words and his sermons and the things that he's doing, he eventually faces a moral dilemma, and he has the opportunity to get involved politically as well as to actually get involved in assassination attempts against Adolf Hitler. And you see that moral dilemma actually played out on film. And I think this actor does a really good job of capturing that. Also, several scenes when it comes towards the latter part of his life, especially towards the end of the film, I thought were really good. So I think the acting for most of the cast was pretty good, but he was fantastic in this. Now, there are a few things that I want to mention that I wish had been a little bit better. First off, I do think that the film drags in a few portions. Now, you do expect that with a film like this. This is not going to be an action-packed film where there's lots of explosions or anything like that. So there are going to be moments where it's a little bit slower, but there were a couple where I think it dragged just a little bit too much. And I think what they could have done is cut those scenes down a little bit. Speaking of cutting scenes down, I also think that they spent a little bit too much time in certain areas, and there are other areas of Bonhoeffer's life that I would have liked examined a little bit more and spent a little bit more time on. For example, there's one particular aspect where he's battling back against the Nazis kind of in as a type of double agent. Again, this really isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer, but I would have liked to have seen more of that and less of his life earlier in the film when he was younger. And I, again, understand why they showed some of that because that helped influence some of his views later. But I would have liked more time spent on some of these other things because I found those to be just a little bit more engaging given the time period and the storyline that's being presented. Finally, I think the film needed to do a better job of explaining how much time passed between certain events. I don't think that it's very clear when it comes to certain things. Now, I do think that the film is well directed and well crafted, but like I said, I think they could have tightened that up a little bit better. Like after I saw the movie, I actually went and watched a documentary on Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and there were two particular events that are shown in the movie that you come to find out several years passed. Now, as far as the movie goes, I thought they kind of happened right next to each other, but that wasn't the case. There was actually some time passed between there, and I would have liked a little bit better explanation in the film to explain where those time passages did occur. Real quick, before I get into my final thoughts, I just want to remind you to go ahead and check out the other videos on my channel. Maybe there's something I reviewed that you're interested in or that you've seen already. Why don't you go ahead and let me know what you thought about it? Also, for those that are interested, I do have another YouTube channel with a couple of friends of mine where we put on a show called Dad's Turn to Talk. This is an opportunity for three dads to get together and talk about the things that we want to talk about, including movies, sports, and pop culture, and have a little bit of fun at each other's expense. The link to that channel will be in the description below. Final thoughts. Was it good? I found this to be a well balanced, well made, faith based film. Like I said, I do enjoy period pieces, so I appreciated the fact that the film actually felt like it was taking place during the time period that it was set in. But because it's a faith based film, I really enjoyed the fact that it had a good balance between the messaging and the storytelling. I found it to be a very engaging story, and yet at the same time, it did not compromise its message at all. If you like faith based films, especially those by Angel Studios, or you enjoyed period pieces set during World War II, I say go ahead and check it out because you'll probably enjoy it. And if you're not a big fan of faith-based films, I do think there's enough here that you're going to find engaging as far as the story goes. Now, if you're still watching this long, I'd like to thank you for joining me. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.